And in other news, in other words, we could use some other news this week, right? Let's balance out this week's dominant news with some more lighthearted stuff, like welcome back to the Wine Steward and welcome back to our wine bar. We haven't done a weekly video upstairs on our mezzanine with the wine bar in the background for a while. I've been hiding in my office doing them lately. So a little change of scenery, a little bit of optimism for the new year, hoping that we will get to see you guys up here once again, hopefully within a couple of months. So let's see what happens, but I think it's the time of the year when we plan ahead, think forward, get optimistic, put old stuff aside and try something new. And this wine bar is certainly gonna feel new after not using it for nearly a year now. So we'll anticipate that. And this is just our symbolic return, if anything. So I've got my glass, can't wait till you have yours up here. But in the meantime, it's a new year, it's our slowest time of the year. It's a time when I can get a little bit depressed as a retailer because nobody's on the sales floor right now. I'm not hearing the doorbell ring very often. And so with inventory behind us and all this beautiful wine still sitting down there, I'm thinking, what do I have to do now? I've got the adrenaline left over from December sales when things were just going like crazy. I've got more selling to do. I've got more wine talking to do. Where are you? Come on in, keep me company, save me from my post-holiday depression, will you? And I will reward you with some very good new wines, not just wines that we've been hanging on to, but this is a video that will treat different subjects, some things like that you haven't noticed downstairs that have been there all along, and other things that have just arrived, believe it or not. Yes, in January, new wines can show up at the Wine Steward. So let's talk about a few different things that we are cooking up for you, besides just particular bottlings. I think one thing to tell you about that is extremely important to me, and I think a few of you who have hung around the Wine Steward long enough will recognize the name of this very, very special place in Spain as I get to that. But let me tell you that we are offering a trio, and it's the only way you can purchase it at this point. You need to buy all three bottles in order to obtain any one of them, all from one guy, a guy from Scotland. He's been kind of renamed El Escocés Volante. That means the Flying Scotsman. And as the name implies, this guy named Norrell Robertson, who went to Aberdeen University and graduated from there with a degree in, I think, politics and international relations, all of a sudden got sidetracked. During his studies, he was doing time at a wine shop, and the wine bug bit, and off he went away from the subject matter of his degree into winemaking, and not just winemaking in Scotland, because there's not a lot of that to be done there. He headed off to Tenuta Arceno in Italy. I think you guys have had our Chianti Classico Reserva before that we sell from Tenuta Arceno. Where else did he go? He went to Chile, he worked for a great winery there, to the Loire Valley of France. At any rate, he did several different winemaking gigs, learning the craft, learning the hands-on part of the craft, that is. And then he wanted to apply himself to knowing even more about the wines of the world, and went ahead and earned, and it's not something you do overnight, earned his Master of Wine degree. So that took him a couple of years as well. This is right around the year 2000 when this went down. After doing some winemaking all over the place, got his Masters of Wine, which I really think is very important for winemaking. If you're ever going to become a winemaker, exposing yourself to the wines of the world gives you database. It's so important to have that in your head. I think the best winemakers are people who are well-versed in wines of the world, not because you're trying to imitate something from Chile or Argentina or France, but because you have these reference points in your head now. At any rate, I admire the fact that he did winemaking, wine studying. Then what's he do? He goes down to New Zealand to Christchurch, and I can't remember the name of the university there, but does postgraduate work there in order to get a winemaking degree. So now he's official. He's a winemaker with a certificate. And then along the way, at some point, he had fallen in love with a part of Spain called Calatayud. This is an area that is not talked about very often, and if it is referred to only with respect to very inexpensive bottles of usually garnacha, that's Grenache. And those wines can be damn good for the money, maybe $10 or $11, and you are getting really solid wine because this is from an area without esteem, and so the price is not knocked up by notoriety, and also because you've got what's called fantastic raw material. You have old garnacha vines growing in the right place, that barely gets any rainfall. These vines have roots going down sometimes 50 feet to find a little bit of water to survive. What's the result? You have Grenache, which can often be diluted in flavor because it's overwatered and puts on too big of a crop. You've got Grenache growing in the right place of Spain called Calatayud. Norrell Robertson noticed the raw material of this place and he said, I'm going to set up shop here. I, with my background in winemaking and my awareness of what great places in the world have already been conquered by winemaking, let's bring to this place, which it's making good wine, but it can make fantastic wine in the right hands with a great perspective. So the Flying Scotsman, El Escocés Volante, now makes several wines from here, also from other parts of Spain, because his empire has kind of grown. But we are going to feature 3 wines from Calatayud from this dude that are not, unfortunately, $11 or $12 wines, but I can tell you they're much more profound. They deserve the prices that they are fetching. If you can even see these wines, these will be some of the first wines ever to appear here. We're talking about wines that in some cases that I'm going to talk about that are made in less than 400 case production. I mean, we're talking just a few barrels of certain things here. And so we're lucky that they made it all the way out to California. The reason why they did is because I've had the pleasure to go here, not once, not twice, but I have found myself going back to Calatayud, this place where no tourist really has ever heard of, and therefore wouldn't just go there. This place called Calatayud is very, very special to me. It was first shown to me by an importer in 2005, and I keep finding myself back there over the years. It is gorgeous for a wine lover, and I've often thought, with a little bit of winemaking in my background, wouldn't it be cool to go do a project here? This guy beat me to it. I'm gonna hitch my car to his train and tell you about what Norrell Robertson is doing in Spain via 3 wines. You can buy this 3-pack. We're making it available online very quickly. This wine, with a very interesting label, is called Dos Dedos Enfrente, which is a Spanish wine term for basically dumb as a rock. Dumb as a rock because this is from Calatayud, which is known as Garnacha country. This is 95% Syrah and 5% Viognier. And this wine is in fact going to be landing in our world-class wine club this month. We bought a little bit extra in order to feed these 3-packs. We have, I think, only 15 of these 3-packs that we can sell because so little of this wine was made available to us. But this is the Syrah-based wine, a little bit of Viognier in there too, inspired somewhat by the winemaking that goes on in Coroti, France. And this guy knows, Master of Wine would certainly know about that. These other 2 wines from El Escocés Volante, or the Flying Scotsman, have totally different looking labels. This one's called Manda Huevos, which sounds perhaps a little nasty, but it's actually a term that in Spanish implies you're doing what you can with what you've got, which is kind of the attitude here in this, like you could call backwater region of Calatayud, Spain. And it's also somewhat of a term alluding to the 2017 vintage, where it was not a bad year for growing grapes, but a lot of the grapes were lost to things like frost. And so this was like making do with what you got, Manda Huevos. This is going to be based on Garnacha, but it also includes a little-known grape called Moristel, which is not the same as Monastrell. So if you think you've heard it all Spanish, maybe you haven't heard of Moristel yet. What else is in there? A little bit of Bobal. B-O-B-A-L, that's kind of a workhorse grape that grows here and in other parts of Spain. And finally, a little Garnacha Blanca, a little bit of white wine is included here, just like the Viognier was thrown into the red Syrah in the formerly discussed wine. So Manda Huevos, another beautiful wine from the 2017 vintage. This is so graceful. This smells like incense and a little bit of musk and has beautiful fruit in the form of like cherries, pomegranate, a little bit of raspberry. You could say, why am I buying up for a wine that is not as big? This wine is not trying to be big. It doesn't have to be. It is profound. For people who smell their wine, for people who love great, let's say, Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir, you're going to get this wine. It's gorgeous. Another Garnacha, that's Grenache, by the way, by El Escocés Volante. Just capping it off and finishing out the trio is El Cismático. And this wine comes entirely from very, very old vines from a little pueblo that I've gotten to visit several times. And I'm just so darn glad that he's working with these vines. He even owns part of this plot now, this very, at least famous to me, vineyard in Calatayud. So no doubt some of those vines are contributing to this very, very old vine Garnacha going on here. Because it's 2018, a year that went better for Spain, there's a little more concentration and richness here. But this is not what we call, sorry, slutty wine. This is elegant wine. elegant higher end garnacha. For those who drink Chateauneuf de Pop and such, you will recognize a family resemblance going on in this beauty. So in order to access these three virtually impossible wines, impossible to obtain wines, we're making it even harder by asking you to buy the whole, let's say, trinity or trio of these. And they are going onto the website right now. And we have 15 of these to sell. So your only way you're going to get El Escocés Volante for your first time ever, we assume, is going to be to buy the three. For those who like European elegance, you will not be disappointed, I promise. There is that. So that's kind of the big news of the day. How about some other news? How about an idea? How about a concept for you? A concept that was inspired by somebody who's already going to be doing this next week with us. So we've done several Zooms for the public. We've invited you to buy a 6-pack of wine, and then we bring aboard an importer to talk about them in a Zoom event. We've also done these events where yours truly is doing most of the talking, if you can bear it, and we do it for corporate concerns. So people working for Facebook or Amazon, or they have their colleagues that they've been having Zoom meetings with virtually all year long, and they're like, how can we make these things a little more interesting? Why don't we add a chapter of wine tasting? So before the event, what do? We discuss it with the primary person of the company and say, what do you want to do as a theme? Do you want to talk, Jim, about the wines of France or Spain, or do like a Pinot comparison or something like that? Once we've made that decision, we send 3 or 4 or maybe 5 or 6 bottles off to all these various colleagues, all these business counterparts who may be somewhere on the West Coast, or who knows where we need to send these wines. Sometimes it's all Bay Area, other times we put UPS to work. But what is happening next week is maybe a group of a dozen or less. They're going to be enjoying a Zoom through Spain. I know we're talking about Spain a bit today, but this is in fact what we've chosen, mutually chosen to do. And so right now, flying through the air or heading on a truck on the ground are 4 bottles of wine, some Spanish Marcona almonds, some Manchego cheese, and some Spanish chorizo. This pack, this love pack, is heading in all kinds of different directions. And by the time we're doing this event, everybody will have their wine ready. They'll be uncorking, they'll be slicing some chorizo and some cheese, and they'll have their regular business meeting, and then they're gonna say, finally, we get to have some fun. So they'll stay on their Zoom meeting, then I appear, and we'll talk about Spain. And in the meantime, we thought, let's get them even more thirsty and hungry. So what they all got on an email was this, which I'll quickly read. This is what these people are anticipating, and this is just kind of help them start salivating even more. Let's go to Spain. More easily said than done these days, right? At least we have the journey wine can provide, and on January 14th, we'll imagine visiting that great country via 1 vibrant white and 3 flavorful reds. These are about to be boxed up and shipped in your direction, along with some quintessential Spanish food products. To help you anticipate the experience, let's provide a little data and a few pointers. And so I did. I elaborated. I won't elaborate here, but basically I talked about the stemware they might want to have ready, what temperature they might want to get the wine down to or up to, and what sequence we'll be tasting in and why, and to make sure that this does not become a big snobby wine tasting event, but for it to be interactive and fun, for the idea that all you Zoomers know each other already. Let's talk about something fun. Let's see what you think of this wine, you over there in San Diego and you up there in Seattle. And we'll have a great time for about an hour just talking about the wines of Spain and chewing on some good food in the meantime. This is just to say that you can do this too. We're here for you. We can custom make an event like this for you. This one going on next week is not the first one we've done, and I assume it won't be the last, as long as these Zoom things are about the only way that we can get together. Why not add some wine to those affairs, right? So that's coming. How about rumors? I've got 2 rumors for you. One is more solid than the other. Actually, I think we're gonna pull off both of these. We believe on January 28th, you'll be hearing all about this in the coming week, we will have Tom Kelly with us again. Tom Kelly is the gentleman who represents a lot of great Italian wines to us. He represents the importer called Small Vineyards, and we'll be asking folks to purchase I think 5 or 6 bottle pack, take them home, and get some, not all of those things open, but some of those open in order for Tom to discuss them. You'll have these wines in front of you, and as we've said before about these samplers that involve Zoom, you don't necessarily have to open everything, but you get to hear about everything via the horse's mouth. In other words, finally not me, but Tom Kelly speaking. And you guys have been so supportive of his events. I think we've done 2 Zooms with him already during pandemic, and we'll just go with what works and have him again. We've tasted some really nice wines from Italy with Tom recently. Actually, he sent them, we got on Zoom, we discussed, and that's how we'll be doing it with you. And on, I think, January 28th. So let's see, I think we'll be able to pull that off. That's gonna be our first official Wine Steward event of the year. There might be something unofficial in the meantime. So rumor number 2, rumor that is soon to be fact. Let's put this up in front of you as inspiration. This is a bottle of Chateauneuf-du-Pape. We keep talking about Chateauneuf-du-Pape and talking and talking and talking and wishing and dreaming and hoping that we will finally have our annual Chateauneuf-du-Pape event. Well, that was supposed to be last November, right? We didn't do it. I'm tired of talking about it. We will have a Chateauneuf-du-Pape event someday when we can get a group together here creatively. Let's do something in the meantime. Let's stop wishing, go fishing, and have a bottle of Chateauneuf-du-Pape together maybe next Friday night. I'm proposing that. I'll firm this up maybe tomorrow or the next day and just announce that anybody buying off of a special list that I'll put together on the website, anybody buying, let's say 2 bottles of Chateauneuf, that's your ticket, that's your qualification for us to invite you to a Zoom event which will not be like this. It will not be me jabbering on for half an hour. It will be novel. It'll be interesting because it'll be truly roundtable, truly interactive, where I might say a thing or two once in a while about what Chateauneuf-du-Pape is, what it means, but I want to hear from each of you what you are having that night. Which bottle did you choose? Did you decant it? What kind of glass are you having it in? Most importantly, what did you cook for it? So I think a Friday evening would be fun because everybody's going to be like ready through with the work week for an event that is less instructional, let's say, but more interactive and fun and more hangout. And let's just kind of, you know, take a deep breath, let it out, and say, Chateauneuf has to happen one way or the other. I'm going to put together a list, like I said. It'll be in a special category on our website. It'll basically, the rules of the game are buy 2 bottles off of this list, pick them up in the meantime. Our other mandate, and it's a loose one, it's not a requirement, but just a hope that you will play this all the way to the end with good cooking, you know, and then you'll be telling us what you cooked. What did you decide to have with your Chateauneuf tonight, Paul and Jerry, and so on. It'll be a fun discussion, a hangout. This will be a hangout Zoom, not a force it down your throat Zoom, all right? The only thing you have to force down your throat is fantastic Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and we've got them. I'm sick of looking at them down there. You guys have been taking them home one by one, but you haven't bought them all yet, so let's enjoy Chateauneuf one way or the other. This is just one of them. This is one of which I only bought 1 case this year. It's a higher end cuvee from a producer that we've always loved called Bosquet des Papes, but only in certain years does the guy make à la gloire de mon grand-père, to the glory or to the honor of honoring my grandfather. This cuvee, I believe, is all Grenache. So it's one of the higher end ones. It's got great ratings. Besides all that, everything these guys make is good. Maybe this will be what you're having with us next Friday night, if it's next Friday night. That topic is done. Let's put this guy here, because I forgot to say that this would be a very integral part of the Spanish Zoom event we're doing next week. We have to have props, and I'm really great at the props, aren't I? There we go. Now it's a Spain event. Let's roll through some wines real quick that have just arrived, or some wines that you didn't know had arrived a while back, or some wines that arrived a while back, of which we sold out and are finally back. Yes, some of the great favorite wines of yours can come back, and they have. So let's tell you first about Cufflinks. It's a white wine we briefly touched on, especially because we knew that a lot of you have fallen in love with their Cabernet. These guys make a 200 case production Napa Valley Cabernet that many of you have walked in, bought, taken home, loved, and come back for more of. Cufflinks is one of those Napa cabs that is just right. It's not bombastic. It's not unready. It's not something you have to wait for years to get ready. It is wine that is mellow and ready. Delicious $40 juice. This is the white alternative that not as many of you know about. This is based on Sauvignon Blanc. It also has a nice dollop of Semillon in there. So Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon are the 2 grapes of Bordeaux Blanc. And then it's got a couple little surprises in there too. Small additions of a white grape from Northeast Italy. In this case, it's growing in the Napa Valley, but somebody was brave enough to plant it there, having probably had the versions of Ribolla Gialla from Northern Italy. So a smidgen of Ribolla Gialla is in here, and even a smaller smidgen of Chardonnay. Not buttery, oaky Chardonnay, but clean, refreshing, unoaked Chardonnay is the final addition to this wine called Cufflinks White. All Napa Valley fruit. When I smell it, and if I was studying for my Master of Wine and this was served to me out of a brown paper bag and I was supposed to guess what I'm having, first guess is usually the best guess. It's not right in this case. I would be guessing Bordeaux Blanc. I would be saying, I'll bet this is white wine from Bordeaux made of Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. It's got that nice pungency to it. Refreshing, great acidity, nice mouthfeel because of the Semillon addition gives it just a little bit of that figgy richness. But it is still anything, it couldn't be any more unlike a butterball style Chardonnay from the Napa Valley or from Sonoma. It's linear, vibrant, and yet really thoughtful wines. I want you to know about Cufflinks White. It's hanging around down there. People tend to buy varietally. They go to Sauvignon Blanc and buy that. They buy Chardonnay. They buy, even if they're being a little adventurous, Grenache Blanc or Verdejo. But when it comes to blends, they're a little more wary, like what's a Cufflinks blend? Fortunately, they say on the back what the ingredients are, so that's helpful. And I'm trying to be helpful here too in the video, so there's a plug for that. This is a white wine, the label of which you may recognize, and you may have bemoaned the fact that we sold out of this over the holidays. Well, a little shipment just came in from Virginia that included 2 cases of this. So this is a Spanish white wine that includes 6 different grape varieties, not just 4 like Cufflinks, but they're up in the ante with 6 different grape varieties grown just inland from where Albarino is kind of the hero grape. So we're up in Galicia, Spain, inland from the area called Rías Baixas, just inland from there. I think this is Monterey, no, this is Ribeiro. And this does in fact include Albarino, but it's got all kinds of goodies in it too. Refreshing, lush, wonderful fish wine. Do it. It's back in the form of 2 cases. Hardly worth the video, but this is for those who've been longing for more Villerma. It went to the White Wine Club a couple of months ago, and it came off so well that we sold out. A little more here, okay? This is cool. This is something that I would not have dared to sell a few years ago. And in fact, when we got 3 cases of this last, I think, February, they sat and they sat and they sat because it's white wine from the Rhone. It says Vaqueiras on the label. Vaqueiras is, of course, the name of the village that's not far away from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but it's mostly known for red wine. This was perhaps the second Vaqueiras Blanc that we've ever carried. So we've got those 3 cases. Again, I'm telling the story of last year. We've got them down there. People keep walking by. I finally wrote a plug for it in an email, and maybe it appeared on a video too. What happened? Within a week and a half, that wine was gone. All I had to do was tell the story, tell you how good this wine is, tell you how inexpensive it is, even though it's not cheap. Inexpensive it is compared to its counterpart, Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc. It behaves that way. This is made of Roussanne, Claret, and Grenache Blanc. It comes from a producer I've gotten to visit twice. It's Claude Cazot. And whereas we've sold a lot of their Gigondas Red and their Vaqueiras Red, we've also said, you know, great producers can make fantastic white wine too. We nailed it last time, and now we're brave again by bringing in 3 more cases of the newest vintage, 2019. This wine, I think I'm going to include it in that Châteauneuf-du-Pape list. So if you were to buy a Châteauneuf-du-Pape and one of these, that qualifies you for our little hangout event. But you can also buy it in the meantime. It's down there. Like I said, it's not inexpensive. It is in the 30s. It's also going to be saying more and more over the next year, I believe. When I had this wine about a month and a half ago, it was virtually silent. It had wonderful texture. The nose was just starting to creep out, but I knew based on the experience of the last vintage that that's what happened too. Early on, it was quiet, and then it grew, and it grew, and it grew. So this is gonna be a fun wine to follow. It has wonderful richness and body, a la, let's say, white Burgundy, but a different set of flavors. Vaqueiras Blanc, it's back temporarily. We got 3 precious cases. I think they only make about 200 or 300. So it's a rarity, guys, especially when it comes to coming all the way to California. let's put this in front of you, this wine, the bottle that's virtually empty because we've been working on it, me and the staff. I got a couple, or 2 or 3 of our staff involved in this bottle yesterday just to let them know that this will be in our wine club for January. Wine Adventure Wine Club, this is coming your way. We couldn't keep from opening a bottle first. This is going to be made of Carignan, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, and I think it's actually based on Mourvèdre, perhaps 50%. It comes from the region of Fougères. Fougères is also going to be represented to our White Wine Club. So many of you know that we've been selling a Fougères Blanc, our first ever, downstairs. We made a deal with its importer in order to squeeze it into the budget for the White Wine Club. So what's cool about January wine clubs is Wine Adventure Club will get a Fougères Rouge and the White Wine Club will get a Fougères Blanc. That's a first. This wine is fully ripe, and yet it never saw a lot of barrel time, so it's got great energy. The fruit energy was not inhibited by like being dumbed down by wood. It's delicious. I'm gonna have some more right now because I'm running out of breath. And there's no coffee around here. Wow, that nose, man. This was opened yesterday. The great thing about Mourvèdre, especially if it's dominating a blend like this 50%er here, is it gives the wine backbone. It gives the wine durability, and durability also involves having a glass or 2 on day 1 and coming back and being just as happy on day 2, maybe even happier. Mourvèdre has wine preserving qualities. Let's wind down as I have my wine in my glass and tell you about one more vino. This has been sitting downstairs. We've been selling it well, but wanted to let you know, like, it's last call for a great Côte du Rhône. Côte du Rhône, of course, can happen in the form of a $12, used to be $8, $6 bottle, but tariffs and, of course, the fame of the Rhône region have gotten to the pricing a little bit. But as you know, you can still get wonderful value in the form of like $11 or $12 Côte du Rhône. This is not $11 or $12 Côte du Rhône. This is $21.99 before your wine club discount. This is up a notch. This is made by a Châteauneuf-du-Pape producer named Julien Mousse. And it is using some fruit that actually comes from Châteauneuf-du-Pape and some from just across the road, across the street, literally from there. It's Grenache, pure 100% Grenache. Never saw a regular sized oak barrel. All it saw was the really big vats and stainless steel tanks. Biodynamically farmed. Biodynamics is, of course, a step of quality, farming quality and farming attention to detail and adherence beyond organic. And this wine saw that treatment. What you get from a glass of this is something that doesn't stick out in any one direction. It is just perfect. It is if you love Rhône wines, you get the Kirsch, you get the Garrigue, you get the white pepper and the black pepper, and perhaps a little bit of cocoa and the dusty tannins. It's just lovely red wine. I'm just bemoaning the fact that it won't be here for much longer. I believe there are 2 cases left down there. Julien Mousse, Côte du Rhône. This is not your $12 Côte du Rhône. It doesn't behave that way. It deserves better. It deserves you. And we are so grateful for your attention today. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the other news of the week and for coming to see us soon. Look out for that trio of great wines from the Flying Scotsman appearing on our website any minute now. Anticipate sharing a bottle of Châteauneuf-du-Pape as we hang out in a Hang Loose Zoom event soon. Anticipate Tom Kelly's event coming up where we discuss Italy once again. Let's anticipate a lot. Let's be optimistic. Let's look forward. And thank you, as always, from the Wine Steward. Cheers.